Granddad, wake up. They're here to see you. Wake up.
Oh, hello there. I was just having a look through the Newfoundland dictionary to see if I could find a phrase that describes what it is, this thing that the Ryans do this time of the year. And I wonder, maybe it was a kitchen party, you know, a virtual kitchen party. Or maybe it was a virtual house party. Or maybe even a virtual soiree. Well, whatever it is the Ryans do, it's a good thing. From the Out Harbour of Robert's Arm to the cities of the Great Plains, and from many places in between and beyond, you showcase Newfoundland's rich oral culture, your pride of family, and your sense of place. So, thank you all for what you do. May the new year bring you hope, health, and happiness. And to use a phrase that is contained in the Dictionary of Newfoundland English, long may your big jib draw.
Welcome to our Ryan Thing for 2022. As Uncle Ray mentioned, we don't quite know what our thing is, but I'm thrilled that you are joining me to experience it. I'm going to let Mom open our thing with a recitation from the hymn book to bless the house and all who are with us. Here's Mom.
I'm going to do the Christmas carol that came upon the midnight clear, but I'm not going to sing. I'm just going to read. It came upon the midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth, goodwill to all, from heaven's all gracious King. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing. Still through the cloven skies they come, with peaceful wings unfurled, and still their heavenly music floats o'er all the weary world. Above its sad and lonely plains, they bend on hovering wing, and ever o'er its babbled sounds, the blessed angel sings. Yet with the woes of sin and strife, the world has suffered long. Beneath the angels' strain they rolled 2,000 years of wrong. And wearing human kind hears not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise and cease your strife to hear the angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on, by prophets seen of old, when with the ever-circling years shall come the time foretold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole wide world send back the song which now the angels sing. Merry Christmas, everybody.
This year was filled with blessings, but we did suffer a devastating loss. Uncle Charles, at the age of 67, succumbed to a decades-long battle with cancer. We dedicate this year's thing to his life with joy and celebration for who he was to each one of us. With Aunt Carla's blessing, here's a video from our vault featuring Uncle Charles singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games. But then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? And then how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, he'll go down in history.
This song is called The Angels Cried by Alan Jackson. They came from near, they came from far, following a distant star to very late. Not being sure of what it meant, but knowing it was heaven sent, they made their way. And the creatures gathered round and didn't make a sound, and the angels cried. The angels knew what was to come, the reason God had sent His Son from up above. It filled their hearts with joy to see, knowing of His destiny came tears of love. And the creatures gathered round and didn't make a sound, and the angels cried. I've often thought about the night and wondered if they realized the star so bright was sent to tell all the land the Son of God would soon become the Son of Man. And the creatures gathered round and didn't make a sound, and the angels cried. And the angels cried. And the angels cried. And the angels cried. So Merry Christmas from ours to yours. We hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a safe and prosperous New Year, and we love you all.
Thank you, Aunt Susan. That was beautiful. You'll have to give me a minute or a second to continue. Our thing may not be a house party, but I did have an actual house party in early December. Here's a little snippet from the revelry.
Yeah. Intro.
I met my love by the gasworks wall.
Everybody wants to
I
let
dreamed a dream by the old canal. I kissed my girl by the factory wall.
You may have recognized members of my band Joyful Noise in that clip. You also heard the vocal talent of Cameron Kelly, my uncle on mom's side of the family. You might hear from him again later in our thing. Right now, here's Bern and Max, Dad, to warm us up with a traditional Christmas song, Newfoundland style. I hope you are all getting cozy wherever you are. The Lethbridge crew is singing now a song written by Aaron. The inspiration for his song may be the lady sitting just to his right. That's Amanda. Here they are with A Warmer Christmas.
This is A Warmer Christmas from the Lethbridge crew. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go.
Don't clean the kitchen, it's not that messy. Glasses of ice and some Diet Pepsi. On the couch, no coffee on a thermos. It's gonna be a warmer Christmas. Clothes are hung up in the closet. Where's my jacket? I've already lost it. Won't need them when we're covered in kisses. It's gonna be a warmer Christmas. The cold black coals sitting on my chest, burning much brighter since we met. We won't even need to run the furnace. It's gonna be a warmer Christmas. Forget the seasons, forget the presents. In the past I was missing your presence. In the future we'll never miss this. It's gonna be a warmer Christmas. It's gonna be a warmer Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
It's story time. Here's Uncle Lloyd with a traditional Newfoundland story, a true story.
This is a true story. I'm going to call the girl, because she was a girl at the time, Charlotte. Charlotte Weir from Little Bay Islands. And I'm calling the man Robert Thompson. The time is approximately 1895. Robert Thompson was a fisherman, a Labrador shearman, and he was sailing out of Luscious Bight with George Parsons. And in the autumn of 1895, when Robert returned from Labrador, he discovered that his wife had died during the summer, and that his 9 or 10-year-old daughter and his younger son, who was 7 or 8 years old, were then living with his mother, but his mother had a house full of children, so she wasn't really able to look after the children. Now, Robert, of course, was devastated. He had a real problem. He would have no difficulty getting through the winter, and it turned out that before his wife died, she had provided well. The only thing that she had not managed to do before she died was to dig the potatoes, and somebody had that done and had the potatoes put in the cellar. And his wife had also managed to get some fish, dried capelin, smoked capelin, salt herring, smoked herring, and so on. Robert was able to go fishing in the autumn, and as you know, the autumn fish, especially in November, are the best fish. So Robert was able to catch some fish and salt them down for winter. And during the winter, Robert was able to cut wood for the following year, as was our custom. But Robert didn't know what he was going to do, because if he went to the Labrador, who was going to look after his children? He could, of course, put the children out for adoption, but he knew that his daughter would probably be taken by a family where she would be, well, a surrogate wife, a concubine, as we called it during those times. And the boy was a bit sickly, and nobody would want to look out to the boy, so he really had a problem. In any case, he talked with the parson, the Methodist parson, and explained his situation. And the minister said that he would look around the district and see if there might be a woman available. Usually there were widows available, but usually they had 3 or 4 or 5 children themselves. And Robert didn't want to take on a responsibility quite that much. So in January, when the minister was in Robert's arm, having done his circuit after Christmas, and his circuit extended from Nippers Harbour on the western side of Green Bay to Pilley's Island and Robert's Arm, Port Anson, Luscious Bight, Beaumont, Harry's Harbour, and several communities on the western side of Green Bay. So the minister told Robert about a young woman by the name of Charlotte Weir in Little Bay Islands. She was 16 years old. She wasn't married. And 16 years old at that time and not married made her virtually a spinster. It was something approaching a tragedy. So Robert collected enough dogs to get ready to go to Little Bay Islands so that he could have a chat with Charlotte Weir to find out whether she would be willing to come to Robert's Arm to look after his son and daughter. So about maybe around noon, we're now talking about sometime around the end of January, Robert pulled into Little Bay Islands, and after talking to a couple of people, very quickly found the Weir home, and he went and knocked on the door. He wasn't expected, a plump lady came to the door, and he explained who he was, and he explained what his mission was. He understood that they had a daughter, a 16-year-old daughter, and he was looking for a housekeeper. So the lady invited him in, and there was a waif of a girl in the rocking chair with a small child in her arms. So he was then introduced to this waif of a girl who turned out to be Charlotte Weir, and his heart dropped because she was almost the size of nothing, but there wasn't a lot of food to go around. So Robert explained his mission to her with a lot of misgivings, and she said that she would be willing to come to Robert's arm with him to look after his children. So it was only a matter of an hour, and she had the meager clothing that she owned in maybe a flour sack, and they were on the dog team heading back to Robert's arm. Well, Robert found out that even this girl, who was the size of almost nothing, had quite a lot of energy, and she was able to look after the children and keep the house tidy while Robert could go around and do his business, like cut wood for the next winter, and to bring the wood that was in the woods to bring it out. And of course, then sometime in March, Robert had to go to Lush's Bite to go in color. But he came home on the weekends when he could get, and he was pleased with what Charlotte had been able to do to look after the house and the children. And then the middle of May, he bid farewell to his children and to Charlotte and went off to the Labrador. Of course, during the summer there was no communication, so he had no way of knowing what was happening at Robert's Arm at his home. But when he came back in October, he was pleasantly surprised because Charlotte had not only set potatoes and harvested them, and she'd also been able to get capelin for fertilizer, and she had gotten herring, and so they had salted herring and smoked herring, and they had dried fish. And Charlotte had been able to shear the sheep and wash the wool and card it and spin it, and much of it was already knitted into socks and mitts and sweaters, including, of course, additional socks and mitts for Robert when he went to the Labrador, because when they went to the Labrador in May, it was still winter in Labrador, and long before they left to return it would be winter, so he really needed mitts and socks. Anyway, Robert was quite pleased, and they got through another winter much the same as the one before, and he was more and more impressed with what Charlotte had been able to do. He also discovered that Charlotte had another virtue.
Oh, sorry, a little technical difficulty there. I'll fix that. While you're waiting, though, listen to Dad and Bern play a traditional Newfoundland jig for us. We'll be right back. Thank you, Bern and Dad. Let's get back to our story. Charlotte has another virtue. I wonder if she's as pretty as the angels when they sing. Here's Uncle Lloyd with the conclusion of the story.
More impressed with what Charlotte had been able to do. He also discovered that Charlotte had another virtue. Apparently, because nobody was particularly interested in this slip of a girl on Little Bay Islands, she had been doing some reading. There had been a doctor on Little Bay Islands. The doctor, when he left Little Bay Islands, left some books. And for whatever reason, Charlotte had begun reading the doctor's books. So Charlotte was quite an educated woman by this time, or a young woman. And she had also read, apparently in the doctor's books, about which leaves and bark and roots and so on one could get. And if it was steeped out in moonshine, then she had medicinal preparations. And a lot of the ladies came to her because she was able to provide for some of their ailments. So they got through the winter. And then, of course, in May, Robert had to go to the Labrador again. When Robert came home in October, then, of course, he went home. He was pleased to find that everything was in place, more or less as it should be. The children looked healthy. They might have been lousy, but everybody was lousy, so what difference? And Charlotte said to him, she said, "Robert, I wonder if I could have 25 cents. And Robert said, "What do you want 25 cents for?" She said, "Well, Bill Anthony told me that that he's going to Lush's Bite on Monday, and if I went along with him, he would agree to carry me the additional distance to Little Bay Islands and would pick me up again the following day for 25 cents. She said, "I have not seen my mother and the family now for 2 years, or almost 2 years." And he said, "Of course, I can give you 25 cents. In fact, I can give you 50 cents if you want. But if you go to Little Bay Islands on Monday, you are going to miss the wedding." And she looked at him and she said, "I didn't hear about any wedding. Who's getting married?" He said, "I am." And it was clear that Charlotte had entertained some thoughts in that direction, thinking that Robert would ask her to marry him. So she was shocked, and tears started to flow because she now understood that she had been rejected, but she couldn't think who Robert was going to marry because there was no woman available in Robert's arm. There was no young widow. There were several older widows, but much older than Robert. So she assumed that Robert had made arrangements to marry a widow somewhere in the district because the minister would know these things. And Charlotte said, "Robert, who are you going to marry?" And Robert said, "Well, I thought I would ask you." And Charlotte was shocked. And she said, "Robert, you don't have to give me the 25 cents now, because if I go to Little Bay Islands on Monday, I would miss my own wedding. And I would not want to miss my own wedding, no, not for everything in the world." So we will now draw a curtain along this domestic scene and leave these people to their own designs. I wish you a Merry Christmas. I don't have any brandy to offer you, but who knows, maybe somebody might take pity on me and get a bottle of brandy for me. And a Happy New Year when it comes. I love you all.
What's a Christmas thing without a child's participation? Here's little Cash Colburn, that would be Burns' grandson, to deck our halls. 3.
Deck the halls with boughs of folly, la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. John Lee now of Bride of Harrow, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient folk-tide carol, fa la 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 la.
Thank you, Cash. Dad's going to read a poem now that he wrote about a Christmas Eve in the woods. Apparently up to no good.
I'll tell you a story. It wouldn't take me long. About a Christmas I spent in a root cellar at First Pond. The root cellar was small and not a lot of space. Enough room for a stove and a bunk of boughs on the floor of the place. 2 dogs and a stove on one side, me on the other. In other words, we were sleeping together. Snug in the bunk, waiting for dawn to crack. The poached moose safe in the trees out back. We came awake in the morning by the noise overhead. They knew I was poaching. That is, I wish I was dead. To police in a chopper saying, Max, boy, you can't run. 2 dogs is no match for our big son of a gun. The judge said, Max, boy, you got caught. Now bless your stars, you're going to spend Christmas behind iron bars. Crime doesn't pay when you get caught. I know it for sure, believe it or not. The root cellar in question, now long gone, was part of number 1 camp, Bullwaters, First Pond. Merry Christmas. To all.
I should have offered a parental advisory to that poem. Dad tells a lot of stories. And one story that he told us about a trek he made to Tommy's Arm in the dark led to me writing this next song. Here's Making Good Time.
Making good time on a wayfarer's journey. Making good time on the paths that are new through all varied seasons, life tested.
finding ways back to you, making good time on this wonderful journey, making good time. Can't find reason to run through the valleys and deserts, mountains we climb, not out on 4 lane, but I'm making good time. Not hitting the fast lane, but I'm making good time. Well, that's done. Aunt Phyllis is up next with a song she wrote called The Christmas Eve Waltz.
The glow from the firelight brightens the Christmas tree, and shimmering tinsel reflections of you and me. A hush now surrounds the world, no breeze on the winter sea, but our hearts are playing a sweet melody. All the stars, how they sparkle in their radiant sight. Come dance with me, darling, through ribbons of light. With your hand in mine, love, we sway to and fro, holding you close to me in the Christmas Eve glow. The babies are drowsy now, soon we'll be tucked in bed. Old carols are playing, Christmas Eve stories read. Candles are burning low, birds have all quickly fled. they sparkle in a radiant sight. Come dance with me, darling, through ribbons of light. With your hand in mine, love, we sway to and fro, holding you close to me in the Christmas Eve glow. Holding you close to me in the Christmas Eve glow.
Thank you to Aunt Phyllis. And as promised, here's Uncle Cam Kelly, with Colorado Christmas. I'm just there for decoration.
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, go. Looking out the window of this Hollywood hotel. Well, you never say that it was Christmas Eve. The billboards and neon take the place of Christmas bells, and the temperature is 84 degrees. I can hear the traffic on the crowded street below, as the palm trees poke their heads above the scene. There's not a single reindeer, and it hardly ever snows. And Santa drives a Rolls Royce limousine. But all along the Rockies, you can feel it in the air. And turn around the boulder down below. And the closest thing to heaven on this planet anywhere is a quiet Christmas morning in the Colorado snow. I remember Christmases when I was just a boy. How in the morning I would run to see the tree, and the carolers on the hillside would sing their song of joy. And I always thought they sang them just for me. Now the sun is setting in the California sky. I can't find the spirit anywhere. So I think it's time for me to tell Los Angeles goodbye. I'm going back home to search for Christmas there. And all along the Rockies, you can feel it in the air. Turn the boulder down below. And the closest thing to heaven on this planet anywhere is a quiet Christmas morning in the Colorado snow. Is a quiet Christmas morning in the Colorado snow.
There you go.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
You. Merry Christmas. So I'm losing the light, which means that we've come to the end of our show for another year. Special thanks to everyone who participated in this year's program. Performers Doreen and Max, Lloyd, Susan, Phyllis, Joyful Noise, Cash, Cam and Ray and Ethan, Sunita, Lori, Amanda, Aaron, Vern, and all those who helped out behind the scenes in Montreal, Owen and April, and in Edmonton, Penny. I do hope that you find Christmas wherever you are this year. and you make good time into the new year where you find every blessing you deserve, and maybe even a few you don't. Love to you all.
Okay, Granddad, you can go back to sleep now. They're gone.